Hey friends, I am Jackson. Welcome back to Jackson, English Stories. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard someone speak English and you understood every word? I mean, you got it? You followed the sentence. Maybe you even laughed at the joke. But when it was your turn to reply, boom, silence. Your brain went blank. Your mouth stayed shut. You knew the answer. You just could not say it. Not out loud. That is what we are talking about today. Because this invisible gap, it is not just you. It is not a lack of knowledge. You are not bad at English. You are stuck in a moment, a very specific, very common moment. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a learner in one of my classes. He was great at listening. He could understand podcasts, movies, YouTube videos. He scored high on every grammar test. But one day, a tourist asked him a simple question on the street, like, really simple, "Is this the way to the train station?" And he froze. He looked at the guy. He blinked. And then, he pointed. No words, just panic. Later he told me, I knew what he said. I even knew how to answer, but I could not make my mouth move. It was like my brain short-circuited. Sound familiar? If it does, you are not alone, and you are not broken. In fact, if you are watching this video, understanding me right now, then you are already halfway there. So what is missing? That is what we are diving into. Today's video is called Why You Understand English But Cannot Speak, and How to Fix It. We are going deep, but not in a boring textbook way. I promise you stories, real examples, practical steps, and just a little bit of tough love, because I want you to stop surviving in English. I want you to start speaking. For real. And before we begin, I want to hear from you. Be honest. Have you ever frozen like that? Just write yes in the comments if you have, or better yet, tell me where it happened. Was it in a store, at work, on a date? And if you are new here, feel free to hit subscribe. Only if you want real, story-based English that feels more like a conversation and less like a classroom. All right. Let us go. Let me take you to a moment in my own life. When I realized that understanding is not enough, it never was. It was in a coffee shop. I had been studying English for years, watching shows, reading articles, practicing grammar exercises, and I felt ready. Or so I thought. That morning I was sitting by the window with my notebook. I had a list of new words I wanted to memorize. Words like complicated, perhaps, and eventually. I was focused, in the zone. Then the barista came over, smiled, asked, "Still or sparkling?" And I froze. I understood the question. Of course I did. It was easy. I had heard that phrase a dozen times. But my mouth? Nothing. Not even a whisper. Just that weird, tight silence. She waited. I nodded. She smiled politely and walked away, and I sat there, staring at my notebook. Feeling embarrassed, frustrated, and confused. That was the moment, right there. When I realized I was not training to speak, I was training to understand, to read. To fill in the blanks on paper, but not to respond, not to speak with a real person. It hit me hard, because in that moment all my effort, all the studying felt useless. I mean, what is the point of knowing English if you cannot use it when it counts? But that feeling, that awkward pause, that was not the end. It was the beginning of a different kind of learning. A kind where mistakes were okay, where perfection was not the goal, where speaking was not about showing off. It was about connection, and maybe, just maybe, you have had a moment like that too. Let us talk about why it happens, and what we can do about it, together. Now here is something I need you to know. You are not the only one. This is not rare. This happens to millions of learners, all around the world. In fact, every single time I do a class or a live event, someone says the same thing. I understand everything. But when I speak, it all disappears. And I get comments, emails, messages, like this one. I watch your videos and I understand them. But I still cannot speak English with confidence. Sound familiar again? Let me tell you something important. That gap you feel, it is not a personal failure. It is a pattern that repeats itself across countries, cultures, and age groups. I once met a woman from Brazil. She had studied English for 4 years. 4 years! She could read novels. She could watch movies without subtitles, but she had never spoken to a native speaker, not once. Why? Because she was afraid. She thought her accent was bad. She thought her grammar would be wrong. She thought people would laugh at her. Then one day, she got lost. She was in New York, walking to a museum, and she could not find the street. A man walked by and she panicked, but something inside her just said, "Try." So she stopped him and asked, "Excuse me, where is Fifth Avenue?" Her voice was shaky. She got the words a little wrong. But the man smiled, answered kindly, pointed the way. She told me later, "He did not care that I made a mistake. He just helped me." And I felt free. That moment changed everything for her. She started speaking more, making more mistakes, learning faster than ever. So let me say this to you. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Even one sentence is a win. Even one moment of courage can unlock a whole new level of fluency. You are not stuck because you are not smart. You are stuck because you are afraid to try. But guess what? Everyone is at first, and the only way out is through. Let us talk about what is really going on. What is actually stopping you from speaking, even though you understand so much? Here is the truth. There is a gap, a space, a silent zone between listening and speaking. And it is not about vocabulary. It is not about grammar. It is about habit. See, when you learn a language the traditional way, you focus on input. You listen, you read, you understand. That is great, but it is only half the process. The other half, speaking, needs a different kind of training, and most learners never get that. Let me put it this way. Imagine trying to learn how to swim by reading books. You study every stroke. You memorize every rule. You even watch hours of Olympic swimmers, but you never get in the water. Guess what happens the first time you jump into a pool? You panic. You freeze. You forget everything. Not because you are dumb, but because knowing and doing are not the same thing. Speaking English is the same. If you never practice using your voice, if you never push past the fear, your brain will not build the bridge between thought and sound. And that is the real problem. Not your accent. Not your memory. Not your talent. It is that no one taught you to train the right skill, real-time response. That is what we need to fix. And the good news? You can fix it. You can retrain your brain. You can build that bridge, but it starts with recognizing that understanding is not enough. Listening is not enough. You need output. You need repetition. You need risk. Yes, you might make mistakes. Yes, you might feel awkward. But if you do not speak, you will never get comfortable speaking. Let us change that. So let me give you the first fix, and it starts with a hard truth. You need to stop translating in your head. I know. That is how most of us were taught. You hear a sentence, you think about it in your language. Then you translate your reply. Then you say it, but by the time you are ready, the moment is gone. The conversation moved on, or the person walked away, or your brain froze. Translation is slow, it is heavy, it is stressful. What you need is flow, and flow comes from thinking directly in English. Now, you might be asking, how do I do that? Let me show you. Start simple. Forget long sentences, forget fancy grammar, just speak what you see. Speak what you feel, speak what you are doing. Like this. I am tired. It is raining. I need coffee. Where is my phone? That is it. That is where fluency begins, not in textbooks, but in your kitchen, in your thoughts, in your daily life. So here is your challenge. For 1 hour today, think only in English. No translating, just describe things in your head. You walk to the fridge. Say, I am hungry. You open the window? Say, it is hot today. Say it out loud if you can. Whisper it if you need to. But say it. You are training your brain to skip the middle step. You are building the habit of thinking in English. And over time, that habit becomes instinct. That instinct becomes fluency. So let me ask you right now, look around you. What do you see? Say it in English right now. Do not wait for the perfect sentence. Just speak. Now let us talk about one of my favorite tools. It is called shadowing. And no, it is not something mysterious. It is actually one of the most powerful ways to train your speaking reflexes. Here is how it works. You listen to a sentence in English, and then, without pausing, without thinking, you repeat it out loud. Right after the speaker. That is it. Simple. Yes, but do not let that fool you. This is brain training at its best. Because when you shadow, you are doing 3 things at once. You are listening, you are speaking, and you are syncing your brain to natural English rhythm. Now, the first time you try it, it will feel weird. Your voice might trip over the words. You might lag behind. You might get frustrated. That is normal. That is part of it. Think of it like this. Have you ever watched martial arts? The fighters do not just memorize moves, they train reactions, over and over, until the movement becomes automatic. Shadowing is the same for your mouth and mind. You do not wait. You do not plan, you just speak, and with practice your brain learns how to catch up. It learns speed, flow, confidence. So how do you get started? Pick a short video or podcast clip, something with clear, natural speech. Maybe 2 minutes long. Play a sentence and repeat it immediately. Out loud, try to match the tone, the emotion, even the pauses, then rewind. Play it again and again. Repeat each sentence 5 or 10 times. Then move to the next. You will feel silly, but you will also feel your brain lighting up. Because finally, you are not just watching English, you are using it, and that changes everything. So here is your mini challenge. Find one video today. Shadow it for just 5 minutes. You can even use this video. Replay any part you want. Copy my voice, my rhythm, my energy. This is your gym, your training ground. No judgment, no tests, just you and your voice getting stronger. So next time someone speaks to you in English, your brain will not freeze, it will respond. Because you trained it to. Now let us talk about another method, one that is simple, but incredibly effective. It is called creating real situations, even when you are alone. Look, I get it, you might not live in an English-speaking country. Maybe you do not have English-speaking friends. Maybe you are shy, busy, tired. But here is the truth. You do not need a classroom. You do not need a native speaker. You need imagination and intention. Let me show you how. Imagine you are at a coffee shop right now. What would you say? Hi, can I get a coffee? Do you have oat milk? How much is it? That is a full mini conversation, and you can practice it right now in your room. Stand up, pretend you are walking in, look around. Say it out loud, use your hands, make it real. Do the same with a supermarket, or a bus stop, or an airport. Picture the signs, picture the people, picture the sounds. Now speak. This is not acting. This is training your brain to perform in context. Because when the real moment comes, and it will, your brain will say, "Oh, we have done this before." and it will not panic. It will respond. I once had a student who did this every morning. She stood in front of her mirror and ordered breakfast from an imaginary waiter every day. For 1 month, when she finally went to a real cafe in London, she ordered with ease. No script, no fear. Was it perfect? No, but it was real, and she smiled the whole time. So here is your task. Pick one situation you might face soon, just one, and act it out. Write a little script if you need to, or just talk freely, out loud. With feeling. It might feel silly at first, but the brain does not care about silly. It cares about repetition. You are building a mental muscle, a scene-to-speech connection. And the more you do it, the more ready you will be. Practice real situations, even when you are alone. Because one day, you will not be. Now let us talk about something that holds so many people back. It is this idea that if you cannot speak perfectly, you should not speak at all. That is a lie. Perfection is not the goal. Communication is. So let me ask you this. Have you ever stayed silent just because you were afraid of making a mistake? Have you ever known what to say, but held it in because it might come out wrong? Yeah, me too. But here is the truth. Mistakes are part of learning. And more than that, mistakes are part of speaking, always. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We forget words, we pause, we say the wrong thing. So why do you think you cannot? You can, you must. Because the only way to get better is to keep going. Let me tell you a quick story. I had a student who was obsessed with grammar. Every sentence had to be correct, every verb tense had to match, and because of that, she hardly ever spoke. One day I challenged her. I said, "Today, your mission is to make 5 mistakes. That is it. Make them on purpose." She looked shocked. But she tried, and something amazing happened. She laughed. She relaxed. She talked more in that one lesson than she had in the whole month before. Why? Because the pressure was gone. And when the pressure goes away, the words come out. Fluency is not about never making mistakes. It is about not stopping when you do. So here is a mindset shift for you. Mistakes are proof that you are using the language, that you are playing the game. And the more you play, the better you get. Say it with me. I do not need to be perfect. I just need to speak. One word, one sentence, one conversation at a time. That is fluency. So next time your brain says, "What if I mess up?" you say back, "That is how I grow." Now let us face the real world. At some point, you need to talk to real people, not just mirrors, not just imaginary baristas. But here's the thing. It does not have to be a big, scary conversation. It can be one sentence, one question. One moment of courage, because real-world practice, even just a few words, can change everything. Let me tell you about a guy named Amir. He drives a taxi, 2 hours a day, every day. And he wanted to practice English, but he said, "I have no one to talk to." So I gave him one challenge. Say one sentence in English to one person, every day. That is it. Day 1, he said good morning to a hotel guest. Day 2, he asked, "Do you need help with your luggage?" By day 10, he was chatting about traffic and weather. Was it perfect? No. Was it real? Absolutely. And that is what mattered. One stranger a day, one new connection. One win for your fluency. You can do the same. Start with a safe space. Maybe a cashier, a receptionist, a fellow learner online. Think of something short and clear, like, "How are you today? Do you speak English? Can I help you?" That one sentence is your doorway, and here is a trick. Prepare it in advance. Practice it 5 times. Say it in front of the mirror. Whisper it on the way to the store. Then, say it. What happens next? That is the magic part. Maybe the person smiles, maybe they do not even notice, maybe they reply and you panic a little. That is okay, because you did it. That moment becomes your anchor. Your proof. I spoke English today, and if you can do it once, you can do it again. So here is your challenge. One stranger, one sentence. Today, write it down, speak it out, then come back and tell me how it went. Because fluency is not built in silence, it is built in moments like these. You ready? Let us go find someone to talk to. Now let me tell you a secret. The most successful English learners I have met were not the smartest. They were not the fastest. They were the most consistent. They were the ones who showed up. Even when it was hard, even when it was awkward, even when they made mistakes. They did not wait for the perfect moment. They created it. I remember this one student, quiet, gentle, never the first to speak in class. For the first 2 months, she barely said a word, but she started doing something powerful. Every day, she said one line to someone in English. One line. Sometimes it was to a classmate, sometimes to her dog, sometimes to herself in the mirror. But she never skipped a day. After 3 months, she raised her hand in class, answered a question, then asked one, then told a joke. After 6 months, she traveled alone, asked for directions, booked a hotel room, made a friend. And when she came back, she said something that still gives me chills. I do not speak perfect English, but I speak real English. That is the difference. Because speaking is not about sounding like a textbook, it is about being heard, being understood, being brave. So if you think you are too shy, or too slow, or too late, I want you to remember her. And I want you to remember this: courage beats grammar. Consistency beats talent. Effort beats perfection. Every time. So here is your reminder. You do not have to be amazing today. You just have to speak. Today, do not compare your English to anyone else's. Compare your courage. And ask yourself, did I try today? If the answer is yes, you are already winning. Keep going. I am proud of you. Let us bring everything together. You have heard the stories. You have felt the hesitation. You have seen the fear. And maybe, just maybe, you saw yourself in one of them. That moment you understood a sentence perfectly, but could not say a word in return. That moment your brain went quiet, not because you lacked knowledge, but because you were waiting to be perfect. Now you know the truth. Perfection is not the goal. Real fluency lives in motion, in mistakes, in repetition, in messy, human, courageous attempts. So what does that mean for you? It means you stop hiding behind the "I understand enough" excuse. It means you start using your English, not just studying it. It means you speak even when it is small, even when it is awkward, even when it is just to yourself, because every time you speak, you close the gap between silence and voice, between theory and practice, between fear and fluency. Think about this. You would never learn to play the guitar without touching the strings. You would never learn to cook by just watching videos. You have to get your hands messy. You have to move, react, adjust, try again, and English. It is the same. So I want to leave you with this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are just one conversation away from changing everything, and that conversation begins with you. Right now, not tomorrow, not next month. Now, so go back through this video if you need to. Take notes. Practice the shadowing. Talk to your mirror. Whisper to your coffee. Say something to a stranger. And remember, fluency is not a talent. It is a choice you make every single day. You got this. Let us keep going together.